What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Everybody Has a Podcast. And when I mean everybody has a podcast, I'm talking about Garen Heslop in the house. He's got a podcast called the Gynergy Effect. And we're going to talk today about the Gynergy Effect, why he started a podcast, and how you can start a podcast too. We're going to go with some backstory. We're going to talk about work history. We're going to talk about life trials. And then we're going to talk about podcasting as well. So, Garen, thanks for coming in, man. Super happy to have you here.
Me, brother. And that's real. I mean, if I have a podcast, everybody could have a podcast.
So. You're like, wow, bro started the show with an insult?
If you're thinking about it, you see me on here, just jump in and do it. That's what's up. I love it.
Everybody, you and I got the same. You got the hair for podcasting, bro.
This is what it takes. You have to shave your head.
You got to shave your dome to have your own show. So real quick backstory, kind of setting the stage for our conversation today. Garen and I, we met each other because a 7-figure creator. Shout out Rich Somers and the whole crew. 7-figure creator kind of brought us all together. I didn't even know you at the beginning. You didn't know me either.
No.
And then like one day after a call, you're like, I'm supposed to start this pod in like 48 hours, and my guy backed out.
Yeah, backed out. Left me hanging. I made a commitment that I was doing this no matter what, and I'm so stubborn once I get that in my head. And then just happened to mention this on the thing. Hey, my guy backed out, and then I get a little message from Andy over here, and he's like, hey, if you need somebody, I'll be there. I'm like, what do you mean you'll be there? What do you be there for? What? I guess I got nobody to record it. It's like, no, I got all the equipment. I'll come out, I'll show up, and I won't even charge you. Just see if it works. And I was like, bro, you're a legend. Who is this guy over here? Like, what's the angle? What do you want to do? And like I thought maybe he was gonna come rob me or something, but actuality,
yeah,
came and saved the day, baby. Batman over here. I put the bat signal up. Here comes Andy.
Well, pod signal. It's like a microphone in the sky.
Exactly,
but microphone and video
you need
needed.
Something. Put the pod signal up, and you'll get my man Andy. Over
so there. I want to. So that is the way it happened. Is you were like on the out, man. And I was like, I can't. This is stupid for me to be able to know I could do it. And then just like watch you let it not happen, like that's honestly stupid, right? I don't believe that that's caring at all. And so I was like, okay. But I also had seen like what you guys are doing, and frankly, and I told you this when we talked, I was like, I see you doing the Mexico house builds. Mm-hmm. And that's been part of something we've supported for many years privately in our own space, is the churches we've been at and the organizations we've been part of, like supporting those house builds. Yeah. And so when I saw you guys do that, I'm like, man, it's nothing for me to like roll down to Little Italy and post up in your place and record an episode or two. And then you guys figure out if you even like me. I remember telling you, like, I don't even know if you like me. If you like me, great. If you don't like me, then you have time to find somebody else, but at least you started. And then we can figure it out along the way, because I don't know what you even wanted other than I got this idea.
Yeah, and I feel like it's been like almost a year now. So
yeah, it's coming up.
I must like you somewhat.
Yeah, a little bit. I think we just crossed like the 34th episode in the last like 10 months.
Yeah, it's finally starting to get better, I think. I'm finally starting to progress and get to a point where maybe I know what I'm doing a little bit. I don't know.
The moral of the story, and why I wanted to start there, not to just set context, but also because it's important for people to understand that the way you start isn't the way it stays.
Right.
And there's so many other parallels in like life and being an entrepreneur and in your relationships privately and your public ones. Like the way you start isn't the way you stay. And this is a great example of that. If you saw the Gynergy Effect in the very beginning, it has not stayed that way. It's made progress along the way because we've made refinements and we've gotten better. But that's my like word of encouragement at the top here is like, hey, just because you start a way it doesn't look the way you thought it would, that doesn't mean that's the course for the whole thing.
I'm a big believer in, getting reps in and sometimes building the plane while it's in the air, because otherwise you could sit here and spend all the time in the world to plan it perfect, but you don't know what perfect is until you're actually doing it. And perfection doesn't exist ever, right? So it's just this ongoing pursuit of being better and studying the game and putting that intention behind it. And for everybody, it's a little bit different what they may desire the outcomes to be from the podcast, right? Depending on what you're doing or what the outcomes or like how you're positioning it. Certain things may be important to you that aren't important to somebody else. So sometimes you don't understand that either until you just start.
So tell me about like what has changed since you started. I know we're still kind of right underneath that year mark, but what has changed since you started? And you got out of the gate in the different direction or different method that you even thought and had planned for. And then up to now, like what would you summarize that transition and that, not that transition, what would you summarize that like progression like? How's that been?
Yeah, in the beginning, you're really like you're chasing, it feels like, because you're figuring out, okay, what am I talking about? How's the system and the structure going to be on the podcast? Am I going to have guests on? When am I going to have guests on? How am I going to schedule them? Now, what information do I need from the guests that are relevant towards what we're creating this outcome to be? How do I just set up from the moment they get there till the moment they leave? How do you create that good dynamic and that rapport to create that ebb and flow, right? And so you're not going to know that until you start getting into it and start doing it. And you can do some planning and some research and kind of figure out what is a ICP, what is an ideal customer that you're targeting, and how does your messaging really correlate with that? Because if you speak to everybody, a lot of times you're speaking to nobody. And so really being particular, really understanding, here's what we're doing and why, and then working backwards to create that, and then building the plan as it goes has been really how we've done it. And so when you ask specifically what's got better, now we're scheduling out with guests 3 months in advance. So that takes a lot of that stress and pressure. Instead of recording every other week or once a week, we're recording one day a month, 4 to 6 episodes. So we have all the episodes for the whole month plus a couple. And then we have all the time to do the editing, all the aspects of it. And, people are like, oh, but can you do them all the same day? Doesn't it look, it's like, I'll wear the same shirt because I have my own, I just wear black every day anyways.
So, surprise, Andy and Garen are wearing black shirts again.
Yeah. But we overthink it. It's like, you can do 4 podcasts, 6 podcasts on the same day wearing the same thing. Doesn't have to be on a different day for a different outfit. And it's like, it's what's most important is good content that has meaning behind it, that you understand the why, and you're really diving in and getting real and being authentic. If you're not authentic, why is somebody going to spend? You got to think, if somebody's going to spend 45 minutes with you, they're going to spend an hour with you. They better be getting something of value for them to stick with you the whole time.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what that value is, how are they going to know what that value is?
Yeah, it's got to come across, and I think that this is where I think you're starting to see separation between people that are going to make it. I'm not saying shows. I'm saying people that are going to make it. I'm saying as host and as guest, because there's times where I know you're guesting on other things, but you're also the host of your own show,
right.
And like you as a person are going to make it or not make it because you're showing up repeatedly in the same way. If you're BSing that and you got to put on somebody else in order to become who you are on camera,
right.
when that thing comes off, you're not the same person. That's incongruent to, especially when you're doing people business.
Yeah.
You guys are launching the Level 5 Life, and I want to talk about that today too. But that is high engagement, high touch with high regularity and consistency. And if all of a sudden you're this different dude on camera than you are in person,
people are gonna know that.
Yeah, it messes with people, because then their mind, even subconsciously, is like, well, wait a minute, which guy do I have? Right. Who's the one who's actually in with me or not?
I think the other part of it too is you got to show up. And like I wasn't feeling good yesterday and today, but it's one of those things. I made a commitment. You show up. You show up to the commitments that you have, regardless, because once you stop keeping yourself accountable to that, where does that line stop? And it's easy when it's like your podcast. It's you're not going to get fired. You're not going to have this happen. If you're not consistent, like you have people that are investing their time, they have to rely that they're going to be able to see it. People are creatures of habit. So if they know a podcast is coming out once a week on this day, and then you miss that, well, on that day, they're going to go skip to something else. And are they going to come back to yours? And you may think that doesn't matter, but cumulatively over time, those decisions create a huge amplified impact.
It's there's like a little simple formula that we talk about sometimes here, which is like when you have them, keep them. And if you lose them, you have to get them back.
Right.
And that's a real hard thing to do when everyone else is pining for their attention span online too. And this is also where there's a risk territory, because in order to get people, if you have to be like brash and outlandish and super crazy, like off the range nuts to get attention, but then that's what gets them, that's what you have to keep them with. And then if you can't just keep that up all the time, and then eventually people go, oh, it's just a gimmick. well, good luck. Sorry, that's not gonna have longevity over the course of time. Yeah. But then that reveals to some others, Garen, and I know you know this, and I'm saying this for the benefit of everyone watching, is if you're not going to commit to being consistent and having a growth, like a progression plan, it's going to be very hard for you. It's going to be very hard to just think you're going to just sit in front of the camera and it's going to just work out without you having to think about it, be deliberate, be intentional, plan it well out, be structured, think through it, and then actually do it at a high level too.
That's right.
You can't be like BSing your way through this stuff.
There's two different types. It's not lucky, it's not good. There's trained and untrained. And until you put the intention to get the reps in, you do the preparation work, then you're untrained. And when you show up untrained, that's going to create untrained results that are variable. Maybe you have one that goes off and it creates this great, but then you have 99 others that all flatline. And I've been untrained in podcasting for a long time. Now my focus this year has been to become very well trained in the craft that I'm doing. So it was, hey, let's get it out. Let's get it figured out. Let's get that going. Now it's like, okay, we're spending the time, we're spending the money, we're spending the energy. Let's optimize all of that we're doing so that we're gaining the results that we desire to create.
Yeah.
And that, I love that saying though, there's untrained and there's a trained. And really the difference is now it's before I have a guest, I have a whole spreadsheet that I go through, a worksheet. I have a whole system to develop out the questions, what the intention is. We have some rapid fire stuff. And it's also set up to be able to pull clips, because if you don't pull clips and you're not able to get those sound bites and you don't have those shorts to then go out that captures attention, that can create attention to the podcast, then you're not going to get viewership.
Yeah.
And the best ones that I've been on, or the best people that I've seen, they do an incredible job at that. Because those clips that you see on the shorts, a lot of them just aren't natural conversations. There's something that they had prepped, they had script, they understood going into it. These 3-4 things are going to be important key aspects that we're going to hit on, that we're going to pull those out. And those are what we're going to lead with to create the intention, create the attention with.
Yeah, I think being well structured and deliberate is definitely one of the key components to doing this well and doing it with regularity. The other thing, and I want you to talk about this from your own experiences. We produce your show, so I'm sitting there, I hear these conversations, and I know that sometimes you and Yesty, when it's been the both of you together, someone says something you had no clue about that because it's not in their profile, it's not in their bio, it's not part. It's like, I've never really said this in public before, and they say it, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
What would you tell people who are like new to podcasting? What would you say is the best way to approach a situation like that when someone's revealing something for the first time, or maybe they are sharing something that's more close to the vest that they haven't really shared before? What would your advice be to someone who is in that situation? How should they respond?
One thing with podcasting is it can become very intimate. Right. So you're doing something that's very public in a very intimate space, and that allows people to maybe open up more than they would if they're just them in the camera, and they know that, because it's almost a way to allow people to let loose and let their guard down, and understanding, giving people space, like that's really important. Right. So giving them the space to breathe and to express themselves. And then when there's something vulnerable, give that its acknowledgement in space, and be inquisitive. Like a big strategy, a strategy that I use is mirroring. So when they say something, I'll mirror back what they said and allow them to then think through it and continue on down that pathway, instead of maybe shifting gears or trying to direct the conversation too much. I believe the best conversations, the realest conversations, the most impactful ones have came from implementing that strategy, not by me feeling like I have to direct everything of where everything goes.
Yeah. And I think that being flexible in those moments is super critical. Mirroring is a great strategy to keep that moment and let it kind of have its course of action. That's really wise. And also, especially if it's like something where it's coming from a place of pain, like letting that moment breathe for a second, like that's happening. It's really happening for them. The cameras just happen to be running. and you're recording this moment, but it's like in their real life right now on this day and this time, they're actually like tearing up over this moment that they're remembering or something. It's like, okay, cool. I don't want to rush through that either. Yeah. So I think being really aware on set is a big deal. Because if you're like, okay, well, next question, it's like some super big deviation. What's the most favorite book you read in the last month? And you're like, dude, I'm crying about my dog over here, man. Like, whatever. So I think the set awareness is like a really big thing. And I'm bringing this up because you guys have been in situations like that before, where like people say something, or they start getting choked up about a situation.
Yeah, we have a pretty good gift in like getting people to open up. So I think I lead with vulnerability, and so does Jesse. Like, we're both pretty open about our lives and what's happened and gone on, and even the struggles that me and her have at different times. It's like when you lead with that vulnerability, it just sets the tone for people to also follow with that.
Yeah. Well, and I want to talk about that because I want to talk about that in the context of the Gynergy Effect, because you guys are doing this for a very specific reason. So yes, you guys lead with vulnerability. Yes, you speak very clearly. You're very open about struggles and trials and things that you've overcome. But that's all kind of folded into one of the reasons why you did the Gynergy Effect to begin with. I mean, it's literally named after you two. Energy. Gynergy. Yeah, so exactly. Tell everyone what's the backstory of how did you come to this like precipice where you're like, all right, well, this is gonna come together and collide in this new podcast called the Gynergy Effect.
Well, one of the things is me and Jesse have both been on our own incredible individual journeys, and where those journeys led us through, all kinds of just success and pain and failure and love and energy and all these different aspects, is we both found a love for giving back and volunteering. And I started volunteering after really a tumultuous time in my life of just all kinds of adversity, all this weight that came, a bunch of personal loss that all happened in this really short period of time. And where I found solace was going down to Mexico and volunteering at these orphanages. And it was just like this most incredible experience. And I always wanted to do that. And I've always been like a coach football. I always give back in different ways, but never directly like, let me get down there and let me get, in the mix of it. And I always felt like there was going to be a good time for me to do it. And it never was a good time, or I wasn't at the place in my life to do it. But there is no perfect place to go do it. There is no perfect time. It's just, you just go. And so I started going down there. I had a friend that was in the EO with me, entrepreneur organization. He was leading the group down there. Went down there, fed the kids, played. There was this all-girls orphanage. We played for the day, played soccer, and it just inspired me, and I loved it. So I started doing that pretty often. And as I was going down there, one thing I noticed is the women that would go down there, their energy and who they were, like, I just was inspired by that. And I was attracted to that. I thought it was so beautiful and sexy. And so I wrote down in my journal, I was like, hey, be the man that attracts somebody that lives a life bigger than themselves, that understands their values, they understand mine, and, desires to create a life with these values, right? And so wrote that down very clearly. And literally 2 weeks later, I was at the gym, and saw Yessie and went and talked to her, got her information, and then invited her out on a date. And so we're sitting there on our first date at Javier's, and she sits there and she goes to tell me that, hey, in about a couple weeks, I'm going down to Mexico and I'm building a home for a family. And this is like the 5th time I've done this. I'm like, what the like, I just met this girl, like, her values already, like, she's at the gym. I'm very much like the working out is important as well, right? Physical fitness and health is good, mental, physical, everything. And like, she has this beautiful energy, and she goes down and she does the volunteer work that I just written. I'm like, wow, it's like when you're clear about it, God, the universe, all that, what it does is it allows you to recognize it. And so I was like, wow, that's amazing. And so then she was like, here, I'll send you the link. And then she went to the bathroom. So when she was up the bathroom, I pulled up the link. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take action. I'm going to sign up for this thing. I'm going to secure the second date. And so I clicked on it, signed up, and then when she got back, I showed her. I was like, "Hey, I signed up for the thing." First, she was kind of like freaked. No, she was like, "Oh wow, that's
So
amazing."
I gotta go.
Yeah. But she was like, "That's amazing. You just took action and did that." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm an action taker." And like I think that just set this like tone for the start of our relationship. But she had also done some of the same work, right? As far as like understanding what she desired out of the relationship and who she was as a human being and her value system. And so that really allowed us to like come together. And so where Gynergy was born, Gynergy Energy is like everybody is we're like just together navigating, going through life. People just come up to us and be like, "Man, you guys' energy is amazing. Like it's like this magnetic, energy that you guys have." And I was like, man, I was thinking one night, I was like, and you ask her, she's like, she came up with it, but that's for the discussion. But I was like, Gynergy Energy. I was like, synergy. But I was like, Gynergy. I was like, and I looked it up if it was available, and I'm like, it's available. So there I trademarked it, and I'm like, fucking, there we go, Gynergy.
That's great.
So it's like the Gynergy effect. What we say is this amplified energy. So 1 + 1 should never equal 2. 1 + 1, our logo is an infinity sign. Mm-hmm. So 1 + 1 is this amplified energy and this amplified impact. Yeah. So now our whole mission in the next 10 years is to build 1,000 homes, 100 learning centers for children in different areas, and then impact 1 million lives.
I saw that, and I know you're going to be talking about that a lot more publicly too.
Yeah.
You've made it. I saw it on social media actually.
Yeah.
Because you've talked about it, right? But I know it's part of your whole like plan moving forward.
Yeah. Everything I'm doing is to feed that. Like that's a big, when you talk about your big vision, mm-hmm. that big thing. It's like everything goes to that, and then it's like these other businesses and aspects that I'm building is working backwards.
Yeah.
Like engineering backwards to create that outcome.
They pour into that and they cascade into that.
Everything
into that part.
I don't do anything that doesn't pour into that.
Yeah. No, that's super smart. And part of the reason why you tell the story of the Gynergy Effect is because there's a design factor to this where you like have crafted a certain way, you're positioning it a certain way, and even your guest selection has been a certain way. Right. I will tell you that not everybody who starts a show has been as fortunate as you guys have been to land some of the guests you have. I think that's a lot of credit to you guys first and foremost. But you and also your network, there's people around you who have like, oh, you should interview this person. Then we can get this person on the show.
Yeah.
And your own set of people too. And that's like collided together. And you've had like a crazy guest list, dude.
Ah.
Like, do you know that?
Not really.
Oh my God, you're like, nuts, dude. Okay, whatever.
I'm super grateful for like I'm surrounded. I it's part of my gratitude every day is I'm surrounded by incredible human beings. And there were times in my life I didn't feel that way. And so I feel really fortunate for the relationships. I know I saw the thing that you posted about relationships and everything and the ebbs and flows of that and the people that are in your life at different times. And I watched the whole thing. Like I thought it was really good. But that's exactly how I feel in my life. It's like, sometimes I don't have the time and energy because I'm so pulled in these different ways to put as much to feed as much as I would like to in all these relationships. But the quality when I am with somebody, I put a lot of intention on that time to be really important, really with a lot of depth. There's not much that I do in my life or anything that's just surface. Like I don't even watch TV.
And I don't mean, and I wasn't saying that like you should be acting starstruck at these people. I'm saying that you have people that they are in some ways very entrenched in their industry, or their persona and their brand is like so well known, and like boom, we're right there in the show. They're walking in the door, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, this is who we got today. Yeah, this is super cool, man. Yeah, I also accredit that to evidence of the intentionality. That's what I'm saying is like I think that is evidence that you've created an environment and fostered an experience that they are going, you know what? Yeah, I might be down the road 10 miles here, but I'm going to go do this thing. Not because you're 10 miles behind necessarily. I'm saying that like you're not at 1 million subs. You're not at your 100th episode. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, again, how you start isn't how you stay. And so this is a living example. That's why I invited you to come talk about these things. I wanted people to hear that from you, and I wanted you to share that experience and also give you kudos and commend you for the work you've done to become better at this too. You know, we're getting pressed all the time in a good way in Seven Figure Creator, like, hey, you got to treat this like you're a pro, prepare like you're a pro, get ready the day before or the week before or whatever. And if you're going to treat that as any less than that, then that's the kind of results you can expect. And then you should be okay with that. But if you're going to be like a pro, and then you can also expect some of those pro level results as well. They'll come in different various stages and speeds for people and in volumes. But we even talk about that now too. Vanity metrics aren't all they used to be anymore. It's like depth, like to your point about depth when you're with people. Even depth online now is becoming a huge thing.
Right. I would rather, this is the way I look at it, and maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, I don't know. But I would rather impact 100 people very deeply, down to the core if possible, than to impact 1,000 people on a very surface level. And that's that thing. If you're everything to everybody, you're nothing to nobody. And I'm really focusing in on getting that part of the, messaging and intention down. And so that's a lot of my focus at this point. So if you're thinking about, doing a podcast, understand why you desire to do it. And then, is it to just get top level as wide as possible, or to really deeply connect with people? And for everybody, that answer may be a little bit different. I mean, I watch Rich, and Rich is a great example of somebody that's ultra consistent. Like, you can't say, like, I can't say anything negative about him in the fact that he is just who he is who he is. And he shows up that way every single day of his life. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for him and that outcome. Some people like him, some people don't. But the thing is he is unapologetically him. And all of my experiences with him is he really cares about the people that are in his, in his circle, in his network, the people that he comes in contact with. Like, he desires to see everybody win. And I think when you have that mindset and that premise around it of like, I'm going to show up in a very consistent way.
Yeah.
And everybody that's here with me, the desire is for everybody to win and lift everybody around you.
Yeah.
I think that makes a huge difference.
I want to talk to you. I know where that place is coming from, and you kind of dropped the seed over here earlier, and I wanted to talk about this today anyway. So I'm gonna take this down the vulnerability and the backstory part, because you've faced a lot of adversity, and something that I've recognized is that there's a group of us. I'm saying group of us, meaning like. I'm in my late 40s. You're still in your first half of your 40s. early 40s for you. I'm in the back half of my 40s, bro.
No, I like aging. It's every year is more.
But I'm seeing more and more, and I know everyone has adversity, so this isn't hyperinflating it. It's that people that are leveling up to this level of what we're talking about right now, that adversity has played a really important part in their life. Mm-hmm. And what's funny is that we're all finding each other in this exact season.
Yeah.
Like, I found you and you found me after years prior. This thing collapsed over here.
Yeah.
This thing collapsed over here. Yeah. My life was hard over here. Your life was hard over here. Yeah. And we're like marching down this road, and then boom, those roads collided, and then we're here now.
Yeah.
But that's happening way more than I can recall in my 21 years of being on my own in business. Yeah. That's happening way more now than before. I'm not sure that I'm making that up, or maybe it's just around me. I wanted to get your insight on what you think is happening, and I want you to tell some of your story.
That's so interesting, because I was just thinking about that the other day, and I was wondering, has that been something that's been happening, but I haven't been in that frequency or that place in my life to see it? Because I think for other people that may not be happening, right? And so maybe we're just at the point in our life that that's a really important part. And so that starts attracting that into our lives. So then that's what we see. It kind of correlates to the way you look at the world. If you look at the world and you're watching the news and you're seeing everything that's bad, and you're allowing that to affect how you show up, and now your energy is in that negative aspect, and you're just going to amplify what that is. And I was having a conversation with somebody that's in our mastermind in the Level 5 Life group, and they went down that rabbit hole of the Epstein files, and they're like, man, now I'm maybe I'll go be a mercenary and like go save these kids, and and then I was came to this thing, and it like put me in a really bad place, because I'm like, if not me, then who? right? And then we got to the conversation of like, one, his life isn't set up for that, right? And what he can really do is be the light. The biggest impact that he can be is a light and an example. And he has such an incredible, shout out to Jeremiah, but he has such an incredible foundation of core values. Like, I love that about him. And so when you take that core values and you can shine what it is to live that, and then start attracting people into your life under that like magnetism, and then that helps create that amplified impact, that ripple effect that we call it, right? And so I look at kind of everything in that from that lens, right? It's like me and you now have been through this adversity in life that put a different perspective for us on what's really important, and providing support for other men that may be going through the pain that we've been through in our lives is now one of the biggest priorities. So we're very aware of how important that is.
Talk to everyone about some of the biggest lessons you've learned from losing everything.
Some of the biggest lessons I've learned from losing everything is, when we tie our identity, what we tie our identity to is really how we're going to show up in life. And when we tie our identity to these things, whether it's, for our ego or our vanity, or it's, our possessions, then our life becomes very fragile. Because if something attacks that, and we now, our whole identity was tied to becomes in question, that becomes a very painful process. And my identity at different times were tied to different things. And, I was very successful, built a 8-figure company, and you had 100 employees. And it was like, how people showed up and how they like interacted with me was a certain type of way. But as I started to go through this process of like, going through COVID and managing 100 people, and then going through a divorce, and then my grandma dying, that was like my mom growing up, and then literally 3 months later, my dad dying, which raised me by himself. 3 months later, it was like hit all these different, and then my business just starts going from here to here to here. And the more that I was just like trying to hold on to what that was, the more it fled away from me. And I didn't know how to like take a step back and pause for a minute and just really take stock of my life and what was going well and who I was as a human being and a man and how I was showing up. I didn't know how to do that. And what that caused is me to just continue to snowball like out of control into like this really dark place. And if I would have had the support that we're implementing and we're giving with other people now, then I would have been able to stop that. I would have been able to pause for a minute and understand, okay, who am I as a human being? Who am I as a man? What are my value systems? What do I desire for my overall life? And how do I see the whole board? Because it's like that saying, sometimes you can't see the forest through the trees. We're only so deadlocked on the tree that we can't see all the blessings that we have in our life. And we can't make the moves required to make the adjustments. And then we're just holding on to this one piece of us that we're so afraid to lose. And what does that create? That creates the exact outcome that we don't desire to have. And because we're in this scarcity mindset, we're in this place where it's like, if I lose this, I lose everything. But in reality, we have so much. That's why I started down this whole path through gratitude and all this other stuff.
I want you to tell your skydiving story. Will you tell it?
Will you tell it? Yeah. I mean, I'll tell that. Yeah. So when I was going through all of that, I wasn't sleeping. I just felt all this weight and all this shame and all this just guilt of like I felt so helpless. And I had so many people that were relying on me, like so many people that were relying on me. And, it's like at a different point where it's like you're responsible for the food that are put on families' tables. And, you're talking about 100 employees. We had 265,000 every 2 weeks payroll, and like where that money comes from, it doesn't matter to them. What matters is that they get that check. And there was a point as everything was just like falling apart around me. And I woke up in the middle of the night, just basically like gasping for breath and just feeling so like, what am I doing? Like, I don't, like, I'm not doing anybody any good by being here. Like, the world would be better off by me not being here. And I walked outside onto my balcony, and in that moment, I made a decision that I was going to end my life. And I just felt that it was the right thing to do. I felt that I was holding on to so much shame and anxiety and resentment and pain. I had really just everything that I had before. I went through divorce. I went through my dad, which he was my hero, my rock. I went through him dying, and my grandma was like, my mom was in my life growing up when I was young. So my grandma was that person. She had died, and I had all these people that just required so much from me. And what I wasn't ever doing, it was putting that back into myself. I wasn't ever showing up for myself. But what I found in that moment where I was made the decision that I was okay with ending my life is I felt this just wave come over me. And it was like almost like this blanket of warmth, and I'd say it was from God, it was from my dad. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, man, if I'm willing to end my life in this moment, why don't I just end this version of me? And now from every moment forward, from every day forward, it's a bonus day. It doesn't matter anymore. Because if the worst thing that can happen is me no longer being here, what happens from this moment forward doesn't matter. But what I'm not going to do is not show up authentic, with that vulnerability, with the person that I know I should be, and living in that value system. From this moment forward, every day I'm going to live in that. And if I live in that and I fail, that's okay. Because the worst thing that I could do is I'm already at peace doing. And that's no longer being here on this earth. And so every day I'm up at 3 a.m. and I'm inspired every day, and I'm energized because every day I treat it as this is my last day. This is my bonus day. And so I don't take any of it for granted. Any conversation I have with anybody, any interaction I have with anybody, any action that I'm taking, the way I'm setting up my life to live. I have a very long-term approach to the impact I'm going to create, but I have a very short-term view on every action I'm taking. And so that has allowed me to just create something very unique, but to the whole thing. So what I did was the next day I flew down to Mexico. And so I said, since I didn't jump, I'm going to go. And I went out on this bridge in Mexico, and I have it on my Instagram, but I'm out on this ledge, and I jump and I leap. It goes 3, 2, 1, and I bungee jump. And it's 3, 2, 1, and I just jump, like literally you can see it, and I'm just like this, like flat, because and I had no fear, no regret, no anything. So when I hit that bottom, I just felt all this stuff release. And it was literally, like I always said, because I'd been skydiving before, but I always said I was never going to go bungee jumping. But I had zero, like it was 3, 2, 1, and I just went because I had no fear. Because that's how I live now. Because worst case is you're no longer here on this earth. And I'm already at peace with that. And so now it's like every day live it to the fullest. And if it's in alignment, that's what I'm going to do. If it's not in alignment, I'm not. So like now I don't even drink. It's just not that I ever had really an issue with drinking, but it wasn't in alignment and it didn't serve my purpose and it didn't set the tone that I desired to create. I went a year and a half without watching TV because it just like, I'm like, why am I going to do this and sit here for 3 hours and zone out when I can be intentional about these habits and stuff that I put into my life? And that's just really been the catalyst to create, along with all these other like journaling and meditation and, you know, all this, just this journey of life that I've been on.
Thank you for telling that. I know from having listened to you and telling this story that it has had a profound impact on the way you've chosen to live from this point forward. And, you know, a while ago, I had made a specific choice as well, where I'm like, I'm going to live out the second half of my life as the best half of my life. Right. I don't know exactly when the half point was, Garen, but I remember like at this point, it's going to be the second half of my life starts like right now.
Right now.
And then this is the way it's going to be. And and I know that that has absolutely shaped and defined a lot of the choices I'm making, the things I'm saying yes to, the things I'm saying no to. Even me doing things like this, where it's like, oh yeah, we got the production and we do people's shows, but like even us doing our own shows, there's a purpose and intent in all of this. And I know you've kind of now formulated this into Level 5 Life, a life by design. And I wanted to give you a chance to talk about that today too. It's kind of like your newest thing, but it's not new to you. It's just the program's new to people.
Yeah.
You've already been doing all these things, and like now it's available in this like organized, structured, and really effective program for people to be a part of. So I'm gonna tee you up, man. Tell everyone about Level 5 Life and how you took that existence and poured it into this now that other people can have too.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. So for me, it's like I've been studying just like the human experience, you know, and human interaction. And then I looked at business, because business, like I've always studied just business frameworks, you know, just really like, how do I become better at this game? You know, but what we don't talk about a lot is that same structure in our own lives. And I felt like that's a huge miss, because it's not talked about enough. Because if I'm not at my best, then how can my business be at its best? And being in alignment doesn't, like people talk about work-life balance. That's not never going to exist. And it doesn't, like, that pursuit, I don't think is a reasonable pursuit. But what you can do is be intentional around every different area of your life. Doesn't mean it gets the same amount of time and attention at that moment, right? And so what we break it down, Level 5 Life is a couple different pieces, but there's 5 pillars. So the 5 pillars go like this. You have your health and fitness, which is your nutrition, your fitness, all the way down to your blood work and how all that allocates together, because you and what you eat may be different than me and what I eat, and how it affects us and what our requirements are, right? So understanding that at a granular level. Then the next pillars are relationships. So whether it's the depth of our relationships, or if we're single, how to attract the relationship into our life, like I spoke about Yessie and I, and how to become the version of yourself to do that, right? So that's another one of those pillars. Then you have your personal development mindset. So what is your morning routines? What are your evening routines, or your bookending your day? What practices do you have in play that helps optimize your life and your energy levels, right? So, and doing deep work at specific times that really correlate with you. So it's really optimization of that and feeding the right things into your mind. And then you have your business and your wealth. So understanding what strategies or implementations to be able to utilize. But really the 5th pillar, and I'm writing a book around this right now called The 5th Pillar, but this is the one that really is a foundational piece. So if you look at this table, and then you put, you know, you had 4 different pieces, right? Mm-hmm. This is a foundational piece. And what that foundational piece is going to be your legacy, your purpose, your why. The problem that people have right now, and just in general, is how much time do you spend on really identifying that version of you? Like if you close your eyes and you imagine your perfect day, you imagine your perfect life, your perfect day. How uncomfortable does that make you feel to imagine that? And that's a good question to ask yourself, because I remember when I first started doing it, It was uncomfortable. But how clear is that perfect day or your perfect life? And I say a perfect day because you can visualize from when you wake up to who's next to you, to how you feel, the energy you have, what you do when you wake up, the stuff you have, where you are. Like, if you can clearly see that. And so really identifying what that is. Because in business, we do it all the time. What's our big goal or exit, whatever it is that we desire to create, right? But with our personal life, are we doing that? And then we just reverse architect, reverse engineer that.
Yeah.
So then when we go our 3-year vision, we get very granular on that. And then we break that down into ripples, we call them. So those are 90-day non-negotiables, and one in each one of those pillars that are going to move us towards that. And then we break that down into metrics, just like you do, because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
Yep.
So we break that down into KPIs, metrics, that tells us whether we're off track or on track. And then we break that down into our day, our morning, our evening, because I'm a big proponent of when your morning, when your day, when your day, when your life.
Yeah.
And so now you have a whole framework around that. But now it's like, okay, I can have a framework, but how do I have the accountability? Because that's why business works, because you have accountability, you have that structure. So I do one-on-one coaching, but for one-on-one coaching, it's some much bigger commitment investment. So I was like, how can I do more of a brotherhood that brings people together, that can all provide support to one another, because that becomes so important, right? Not feeling isolated, not alone, having that accountability, that iron sharpens iron, that if I'm slipping, you can call me out and say, hey, bro, like, step up, right? Or provide me some support where needed. Like, we just had somebody that was going through something, and then they, like, me not even being involved, they all set up a lunch for the people, all met together. They all problem solved what was going on. And like that person, like, imagine when you're going through something and you share, because we all create a space to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And you share that, and then you have 4 people that are just like watching a basketball game, and they run over and grab your hand and pick you up.
Yeah. The strand of 3, a cord of 3 strands cannot easily be broken.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're really developing, because one of the core values is vulnerability, right? And it's like, service is another one, right? So everybody like has some sort of service project as well. Like a couple of the guys are working Big Brother. We go down to Mexico, we build homes for families, go down to the orphanages. So basically I've implemented all these like things I've learned from my painful journey of life, and from building different businesses and having these life experiences that have been unique. And now I'm like, okay, well, how can I create a good framework and a structure to help lift people so that they don't have to feel the same pain and be alone like I was, to be in that balcony moment? Because if I wouldn't have had that realization, I wouldn't be here right now. And I don't want other people to not have that realization and not be here right now.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, is a big proponent of that. And when you start living a life bigger than yourself and being clear about that, man, that changes everything. Changes your energy, changes your why, changes your relationships. And that's really what level 5 is about. Yeah. And so it's really excited about that. We rolled out our founding group in end of October, and now we're it's like you can apply for it. It's by application. And then we go through this process, and then we accept you. And, our goal is to obviously, one, everybody like service, what desiring to live a life bigger than themselves. One of the non-negotiables, being able to be vulnerable and open. Yeah. Like if somebody's not in alignment with that, that's a non-negotiable. Yeah. But other than that, we have people in different stages. You have people that are earlier in that journey. Yeah. From a professional standpoint, or building a business, or maybe just, in corporate side, but desires to really like just level up. And then we have people that have had exits from companies that like had the exit, and then they're like,
now what?
Fuck.
Yeah.
Now what am I doing? Right. Okay, like this was my whole dream, was to build this to exit. Right. And now like I spent all my time here, not really on my relationships with my family, not really like thinking what the next step was. Yeah. Now I'm like a fish out of water. So now they're going through this process, and it just helps provide that support.
something I really love and admire, and you're putting this all together, is that it's being fueled by your desire to make the people's lives around you better. And I just had a similar conversation with Shannon Daniel over Tribe when we were to work out the standard. We're talking about like this is people coming together, going along this very difficult experience together. Yeah. Some better than others, some more easily than others. Yeah. Thanks for having my back that day, by the way. I was struggling.
Yeah, but you crushed it.
It's going to go back to what we eat. That's what it is.
It's all about nutrition is so important.
Oh, well, there was a clear distinction between how hard you were hitting it that day and what I was doing. My point is that what I know that's fueling this fueling it for you behind the scenes is like your desire to see everyone's life become better because of you helping them get there, and your drive and your motivation to get there. And I don't think you're on some like mercy project to make up for some failure of the past or things I couldn't fulfill over here, and this like shame and embarrassment talking about. Like that's that old Garen, the one that you're like, oh well, this guy's gonna die. I'm not actually gonna die, but that guy's gonna die.
Attachment, the identity.
Right. And I'm telling you this as like a casual observer who's super close with you, like in tight confines in your show, and listening to you talk all the time, watching you off camera with people, having conversations with you just between the two of us. Like, I get all that. And so I wanted you to share all that because I think what you're doing is really noble. I think it's absolutely needed right now. And I just wanted to champion you, man. I really appreciate you doing this for people. That desire for you to then compel others to take that up for themselves and then apply those efforts towards the things they care about is really cool.
Yeah, I would challenge people too, is like the things that they resist are the stuff that persists. And if you're resisting getting out of your comfort zone, ask yourself why, right? It's like even in our group, I'll roll something out. And some people will buy into it and other people will have resistance. And then they're like, why am I resisting this?
Yeah.
Right. And then once they lean into it, they're like, oh, wow, like this is where the things that we resist are what we most need to lean into.
The thing you're resisting is what you got to do. Yeah,
exactly. It's like that the obstacle is the way. Marcus Aurelius.
The obstacle is the way. Yep.
Yeah. So it's like that really rings true, you know? And so I appreciate you saying that. That's one thing I really take a lot of intention around is really just living my truth, and being authentic, every day. Like I don't think you'd ever see me being something different in front of different people or in different
environments. No, you're you all the time, everywhere. Yeah. No, you are.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't mean that to be.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Punch at you. I'm not. I'm saying you are. You've committed to being this way. When we're walking into your place and we're getting set up for the show, you're this way. And when you're on the show, you're this way. When you're done with the show, you're this way. Yeah. When we're driving up to this Carlsbad together, you're this way. Yeah. And I appreciate that though. And I think it's also a good example for people who are afraid to be themselves. And there's so much of that right now. A lot of it has to do with imposter syndrome, failures of the past, shame. Right. Like, I know you've had a very public failure with all those people that you were leading, and they were relying on that paycheck and all that. Right. And I've had my own public failures too, man. Yeah. And but there was a point where I decided, I was like, I can't let that can't be the definition of what I am.
It's not.
And it's not because I'm trying to force or control. Yeah. People are going to think of me whatever they think of me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to control that.
Has nothing to do with you.
But what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? And maybe even this sounds like in a self-centered, selfish kind of way, but I also mean it that way. I have to decide for myself, what am I going to get up and have the choice to be known for?
That's right.
You can choose to believe what you want about me, but I'm going to go ahead and put out something that you should believe. If you don't believe it, okay, that's fine. But I'm at least going to get up and try.
And you're going to believe you make a decision today. Let's say you make a decision today. This is my identity. This is what I'm living, right? I would challenge you to do that. Make that decision today. This is who I am. This is where I'm living. This is my core values. Every day we have the opportunity. That's why I love the sunrise. Sunrise is my favorite thing. Every day we have a new opportunity to live that value, right? Now, you're going to understand that that's your identity now. You're going to make that commitment. Now, that doesn't mean everybody else is going to understand that all of a sudden this is you're who you are. You're going to live that each day. As you live that each day, everything else is going to start coming in alignment. Some of the uncomfortable parts are relationships that you had as this version of you will no longer be the relationships that you may have in that new version of you, because this is not in alignment with your values, or they keep tying you back to that old version of you. Mm-hmm. And at some point you have to cut that.
Yeah.
Because if you allow people to continue to pull you back to that old version of you, it doesn't mean that just because they tie you back that you go back to being that old version of you. That's 100% your responsibility. Mm-hmm. And how you show up and how you operate in your life is 100% your responsibility. Mm-hmm. And when you take full ownership and you live with the fact that everything that's happening is happening for me and not to me, that allows you to strengthen that part of you.
Yeah.
Right. And so eventually now, when you talk about how other people perceive you, when you continue day in and day out, you'll find is this new environment that you're in is really conditioned and positioned around this is you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this other stuff, like people, the best people in the world have had the biggest failures, and they've had the biggest hardships. They've come from some of the hardest places in life. So many billionaires were adopted, went through foster care, and because that pain helped drive them to a certain place. But I promise you, at a certain point, they had to let go of a lot of that parts that drove them from there to evolve into that next level of them. And so for all of us, we go through these different journeys. None of them are perfect. That's part of the human experience, but they're always preparing us for what our biggest, vision.
Yeah.
And for me, I believe God put me in different positions and had me succeed. And I didn't talk about it, but I was very successful at a young age. By 24, I was a self-made millionaire. I grew up with nothing. 10,000 square foot house on the lake, had my own beach, like sand beach that I had, 8-car garage, my own basketball court. And literally one day I was on my motorcycle and this guy pulled out in front of me. I went 45 miles an hour head first in the side of a truck. And that moment changed my life forever. And I could have been, woe is me, that I'm done. This is, so unfair. I built all this. I lost everything because somebody else made a decision. But in reality, that was what prompted me to this next mission that I had. And now that next mission taught me so much.
Yeah.
Now I had 100 employees. I built an 8-figure company. I raised capital. I built a board. I did all these things. And I did so many things wrong. Like I learned so many things, but I also did a lot of things right, and a lot of things that were really incredible, and a lot of things to really be proud of at the end of the day. That is unique. We're accomplished so much, but a lot of times we focus just on the negative. But that was all, in my view, to prepare me to be the version of myself that can then move to now what I'm building. Because I don't think that I would have, with temptation and different things that could happen, because I was very focused. And then I had all that happen. Yeah. And then I went out into left field. And that was to drown my pain. And there was always in my mind a reason. But it wasn't a reason that was...
Yeah, they're unuseful.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now I understand that part of it. Mm-hmm. Now I understand the responsibility that comes into play when you're now leading. And that's the business now. And the whole thing that I'm building is to lead leaders, and to fuel into leaders. And I wouldn't been able to do that if I wasn't a leader and went through the pain and the suffering and the failures that I did through that. So it prepared me for what this next version and this next mission is.
I have 2 more things I want to talk about, because there you mentioned Level 5 Life, and we're talking about that program and what it is. For people who maybe aren't able to participate in that, you still have the option of them having a Date Zero journal from Gynergy.
Yeah.
So can you talk about Date Zero, and then have one more thing after that, which you don't know, but Date Zero, talk about it.
So Date Zero is incredible. So Yessie and I put this together. It's really it's a whole gratitude journal, but it's so much more than that. It's a whole gratitude journal experience. So what it is it's a proactive. Instead of writing down, you do write down 3 things you're grateful for, and you have all these weekly challenges and all that stuff. But you also every day have a DGA. A daily gratitude action. So every day you're prompted to take action through gratitude, which it could be send flowers to somebody that you love that had an impact, write a note to somebody, just do something in that way, or even a gratitude action for yourself. And then it's gamified too. So we have points that are alongside of it. And so we've had about 100 people that we also do. Now we're actually going to be rolling out this whole challenge called the 45-Day Awakening Challenge with it. And so it's gamified. There's going to be rewards and prizes, but you keep like, every day you get points for taking those actions. That way it just helps you reinforce these habits inside of you. But what people gain out of it is just this incredible clarity as far as what they desire from their life, and then establishing a habit that at the end, like, we have kind of like this whole scoring system that tells of where you started and then where you are, like just a perspective and the quality of life that gains and the depth of relationships that are now re-engaged with people has been this really incredible experience. And like the amount of people that were single that through that process ended up attracting the relationship has been kind of a really cool thing too. So
hold on. I'm going to put the link to both in the description of this video for Level 5 Life and for the Day Zero Journal, if that's okay with you. And then the last thing is, since Yessie wasn't able to join us today, I want you to say whatever you want to say to her. Any message you want to convey, anything that you want to share with her, any sentiments you have, the time is yours. Say whatever you'd like.
Yeah, Yessie, I love you with all of my heart, and I'm so grateful for this journey that we're taking together. I know at times it can be challenging with, how we're setting up our life and giving and showing up, and even when we're not feeling like it. And I know I can be demanding at times, and that's not always fair to you. And I definitely acknowledge that. And, I value you so much as a human being. You have such an incredible heart. And you have this desire of just being this best version of you. And you're like a lighthouse in my life. And whenever I get off, you're the person to hold me accountable and to keep me intentional. And I love that. And I desire to feed into you and create an incredible life together and have you be the mother of my children, and us, travel the world and enjoy life, but also create a tremendous amount of impact and change in the world together. And you're just a light in my life and so many others, and I love you.
Great job, man.
Thanks
for coming to the show today. I appreciate letting this conversation navigate from, talking about the podcast, but also going into the actual other things that you're doing with people. And the design behind that was because they all go together. Most people I talk with, they're trying to triangulate something, and the podcast is part of that, or the conversation is part of that, the marketing is part of that, but there's a drive, a purpose, a product or a service that is beyond just the thing and doing the thing here. And I know that's why you guys are integrated in the same way you are, in this way. You have that the Day Zero Journal, you have Level 5 Life, you have your outreach and your house builds, you have the podcast, and you guys are also like personally coaching and training people, having networking events, going to other people's networking events, and being very visible. So for me, I look at this as a nice composition for other people to look from and learn about for themselves. And so thank you for letting me use you as an example, but also share screen time with you to tell your story and the intention behind why you're doing things. So thanks for coming on today for Everybody Has a Podcast, because, man,
everybody has a podcast. If I have a podcast, everybody can have a podcast.
Seems like it these days, doesn't it? Yeah. Everybody has a podcast.
Yeah, I love it.
It's so unique, and it's not even unique anymore. I don't know.
And if you need somebody, you need help, this is the man to reach out to right here.
Oh, man.
You will be in great hands. I promise you that.
Well, Karen, thank you so much for coming by today. Thank you all for watching. Everybody Has a Podcast. I hope you learned something in today's episode, or I hope a moment that was here felt like it was your moment. It's great that you and I had this conversation today, but man, I really hope that anybody out there who really felt something reach through the screen and touch your mind or your heart in a special way, leave a comment below. And if you need to reach Garen and Yessie, their contact information will be in the description box. And if you're interested in their program, Level 5 Life, or the Day Zero Journal, you'll find the links to both those below as well. Thank you all for watching. Everybody Has a Podcast, and you can too. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.